really is one extreme to another of my videos. We were working on a far more exotic modern C9 in an earlier video. Today we're back on this Goliath and old Sanyo VTC9300. One of the first betamax decks available in the UK, certainly the first Sanyo model from what I remember. So, a couple of things that have happened since this was last out, and one of the things was I recorded a video, and I had a whole video basically about troubleshooting some of the issues that I had with the deck. One of them was the capstan, the pinch roller, and I discovered that the pinch roller had seized. Apparently a common thing on these decks. So what I did was I unseized said pinch roller, and I had it lacing fully and actually playing a cassette, but there was a very noisy picture. It had sound, but no picture. After some further investigations, I discovered, and I've had this happen on a VTC 5000, I discovered that one of the head chips has literally come away from the head itself. So effectively it was only scanning with one head, so you would get a picture but it would be practically unwatchable. And I'd spent quite a while cleaning the tape path, you know, doing all of that good stuff, and in the end it was a problem with the head disc itself. So looking at this, it's actually very similar to the VTC 5000 and other decks of this ilk with a similar setup. Now I'll just actually raise this up. What I will do is zoom in on the action so you can see what I'm talking about. There we go. So you'll notice you've got the upper head drum, sorry. You've got the head disc in here. You might see the heads passing as I rotate the motor. The big difference is on the 5000, 6500 and newer Sanyo machines, that's actually a separate motor. You don't have this motor, this almost washing machine sized effort driving everything. You have separate motors, certainly for the head disc, but the layout is very similar. There's two screws on the top. There's actually 4 screws if you count these, but then you've got a little Allen key thing on the side here, which I need to find my Allen key set and remove. So I will do that very quickly. Bear with me a moment. And if you're wondering, it's a 2.5mm Allen key, which as soon as I loosen it, does that and takes that off. Actually, that's one difference. The upper head drum on the 5000, 6500, etc., there isn't a notch there, so that's a big difference already. And you can actually clearly see the problem. Here's a head chip. I'll just come into here so you can see that. There's a head chip. There's no head chip. Well, there is kind of one, but it's been snapped off. So this is pretty typical of the era. You've got central screw bolty thing. I don't think that actually needs to be removed. What does need to be removed are these two screws. Knowing my luck, this will be like the Sonys of the era, which had that head eccentricity requirement. Let's cross our fingers and hope that's not the case, because I don't have an eccentricity gauge to hand. And looking at it, I may be in luck. However, we do have a couple of solder points. Before removal, do what you should always do before you remove anything of this nature. Find your other phone, or a camera, which has actually disappeared in my case for some reason, and take a photo of the orientation of the wires. So this is actually the replacement head drum here, and you can see, if we look at that, we got the yellow and the black, yellow black, black and green, black and green. So it's going to go in pretty much the same way. Now I need to find that phone and grab a photo, because I probably will forget. Right, I've grabbed a photo. I'll just quickly unsolder these points. There's quite a thick blob of solder, that. Nice big thick fat pad as well, actually. So you can't really go far wrong with the soldering job on this. The nice fat solder joints, you've got a nice contact pad underneath. I would hope that you would be absolutely okay with it. There we go. Oh, there you go. Come on. The other problem, I've just realised, if I put my elbow on there, sorry, wrist on there, actually stops it moving. Kind of. Well, certainly enough to be able to get in there. That's the problem with these older joints, is they've been on there for so long that they take quite a bit of removal. I wonder if they get contaminated over the years, and it's the contamination that you're burning off before you actually get to the solder joint itself. Sort of all the dust and additional sort of tar, tarnish, or anything else that may have come from the lives that these machines have had. There we go. So now that should he says, wriggle its way off. All of those are out. Just screw that back in place once I'm here, because that will irritate me otherwise. There we go, kind of. This isn't something you want to do. You don't want to pop a screwdriver under there and try and prise it up. I've done that before, and I've ended up gashing the head itself, and what I've had to do is I've had to use some fine grade wet and dry paper, or emery paper, and rub it smooth. And once you do that, you actually get rid of the resultant picture problems that you generate. You basically get sort of like a field of noise on the screen, and the more you obviously sand it back into shape, the less noise you get. There we go, that's off, and keep that washer on there. It's that washer that's actually causing it to stick slightly. You can see the marks on the underside. You can also see what I'm on about these heads. Right, the new head disc. So avoid touching the heads themselves, and drop the disc on like so. There we go. And what I'll do immediately is actually pop the screws into the disc itself. Need to remember which screws were which. Yeah, those certainly feel like the ones. It's slightly off centre, so I will hold. There you go, that's on centre now. Little twist of the motor, and you're back on. There we go. Right, let's start off with this one. This contact pad here. So we'll need the solder and the soldering iron. The solder is there. The soldering iron I am looking at. And we will start off with this one. So what we'll probably do is actually pop a bed of solder onto the pad. Come on, fella. There you go. So melt some solder onto the pad. Bring the wire over into said pad, and then there. And that's literally all you have to do. So you put the solder down first, you keep the solder warm, and then you move the wire into the pool of solder. We'll do the same on this pad. So again, that's a nice blob of solder. You keep it warm, move the wire into the solder, remove the soldering iron, and done. And then black on head over here. Nice pull. Move the wire into the general vicinity of the head. Try and get it quickly because you don't want to start melting the board or anything. Botheration. And done. And then the final one is that yellow. So pad up the yellow, solder up the yellow pad. There you go. Move that one. Whoops. And done. You just flatten those down so that they are out the way, and then you can give a quick spin just to make sure that it's centre. And thankfully on these Sanyos there's no eccentricity stuff to worry about. Nice and simple, the way nature intended. Right, so there are two washers on this upper head drum 5mm Allen bolt thing. So I'm going to put one of those either side of this, and that will just go on there like so. Do up the Allen bolt first. The Allen bolt seems to basically adjust this and how it goes up and down, so you want an even gap all around. So this is a 2.5mm Allen bolt, Allen key, and that seems to be, that's tight. Gap looks okay, to be honest. Then we've got a couple of screws like so. And then do a quick visual inspection to make sure that it looks okay. It doesn't look like it's overlapping at all. And if I spin the heads, I can see both the heads popping out, and also if you spin it like so, they're not rubbing or catching on either the upper or lower head drum, so the disc is spinning freely. And that's one of the concerns you need to watch out for. If this is mispositioned, this is exactly the same on the 5000s and 6500s and other later Sanyo machines. If that's mispositioned, when you turn this, at best you'll hear a ch-ch-ch-ch-ch as the head makes contact with the drum. At the worst you hear a ch-ch as the head breaks away. I have been there for both events. One is less annoying than the other, let's say. Right, let's pop the lid back on. Let's grab a test set. Let's see if this works. So I'll just pop this on. And oh yeah, audio had the that DIN cable affair. I think last time I just had a phono cable going into one of these old style connectors at the back. I forget what the name is. Used a lot in professional audio and CV circles. You can get adapters to convert it to BNC, and then a further adapter to convert it to phono. But I've discovered you can just plug a phono straight into there and it works. It's not pretty, but it does work. But what we will do today is we will use good old RF. Right, I'll get this secured back up and back together, get a telly set up, and then we'll give it a test drive. Before I do anything though, I just want to show you what I mean about the head chip. There's one side, there's the other head. So that little bit on the end is the chip, and that's what's missing for this one. Well, the news is sort of good. I found a DIN cable for the audio, and I plugged that in, and I'm basically using the composite inputs on this Panasonic, but as you can probably tell, there does not appear to be any audio. It might be because, very likely, the cabling or the DIN socket is actually wired up differently to the JVCs that I bought this cable for. I thought, to be honest, they would use a standard wiring setup, but maybe they don't. It could also be, well, if it was control heads out of alignment, you wouldn't get a picture this clear. So if the audio control heads were out of alignment, you would not see something looking quite this good. And I've got to say, the picture is pretty striking. This isn't a particularly great tape. It's an ex-rental cassette that has been played time and time again, which is why I'm using it as a test cassette. But that's with the tracking all one way, that's with tracking in the centre, that's with the tracking set just right for this cassette. But that's really given a blooming good account of itself. That is an excellent picture, really good. I've got to admit, I am very impressed with this machine, apart from the lack of sound, but I'll continue trying to work on that off camera. I'm pretty certain I had sound last time over RF. I couldn't get RF tuned in this time for some reason, and annoyingly I also broke the little plastic thing on here as well, which means that doesn't sit on there properly anymore, which is unfortunately a fate that befalls many a set of this era, and oh dear, VCR of this era as well. I still have the little bit there, you can't see it so I've got the camera set to different mode, but I've still got the little plastic bit, so I will try repairing it to a certain extent and see if that works and actually sorts the issue out. But yeah, looking good, and all for a short amount of period of time of work. Anyway, there we are, let's stop. Let's see if the standard functions work. Rewind I don't think will. Yeah, no rewind. Fast forward still works. But because this keeps the tape laced, I'm probably not going to use this deck to fast forward or rewind cassettes, but rather use this deck for playback and rewind the cassettes in another deck, or get hold of one of those tape rewinders that you could sometimes get for Betamax decks. They do them for VHS decks. I think they also exist for Betamax decks as well. Yeah, very pleased. Nice positive result for once. Something I've done has actually gone to plan. Anyway, I hope you've liked this video. If you have found it interesting, don't forget to hit the like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Take care, and thanks for watching. Very quick final update. Over RF, audio is fine, so it's either the cable...
Oh no.
Whoops. Yeah, it's either the cable or the socket in the machine itself, but it's absolutely fine over RF, so no problems at all. If anyone's wondering how I get a rock steady picture on a CRT from a camera, very simple. If you remember that a standard UK PAL CRT refreshes 50 times a second, you need to set your shutter speed to 50 times a second. If you have problems with lighting, you can increase the ISO. So in other words, ISO means that the camera is more sensitive to light. Higher ISO, like for example 400, means that the camera has a far greater sensitivity to light. It's actually something that's taken from the old film days, in other words the old 35mm whatever you're using, medium format, etc. film days, where the film itself has an increased sensitivity to light the higher the ISO rating. So I'm sticking at about 80, which is absolutely fine for the picture. It's actually given me a picture that's representative of what I'm seeing. And there we go. That is one repaired and working VTC9300, and this absolute monster will make the perfect backup deck should any of my newer decks fail to proceed, because I don't think even you know, a nuclear war would destroy this thing. If you remember the scene in Threads where they had a scene at the end with a rather tired VHS machine playing that TV program, Look and Learn, I can't remember exactly. In my version of Threads, you would have a VTC9300 playing a really poor copy, badly damaged copy of a Look and Learn cassette. Or in this case, Time Rider, which Time Rider, which is a film from the early 1980s, and on a particularly worn out rental cassette, which is why there's lots of dropouts and jumpiness everywhere. Anyway, hope you found this interesting once again. Take care and thanks for watching.